don't know if my reasons for leaving the US for Europe are the same as a guy's reasons, or actually even the same as my husband's.
Without even talking about it, I know that my reasons are not the same as hers.
But I'm gonna give you my 3 reasons for why I left.
And I'm gonna give my 3 reasons, and let's see if any of our reasons resonate with you.
There are so many great perks about living in a city, from the amenities to walkability to public transportation, but something that I've noticed is not all cities, and actually a lot of cities, aren't safe. Now this is one reason that I really like living in Porto and Portugal, because we're in a city. It's not an overwhelmingly big city, but it has all the amenities that I like and that I need, but it's safe. Safety is such an important thing for me. Obviously, just for me as a woman walking around, I feel very comfortable walking around day or night. I can go on public transportation by myself and I feel fine. But even more so because I have a child. So I can walk around with her, I can let her walk nearby me, and I feel very safe. Now obviously safety is a big thing in the US right now and there are problems, but it's not just in the US that there are problems with safety. There are places elsewhere. So for example, several years ago, we were in Munich and we had a bit of a startling situation happen to us where we were definitely targeted by someone who, I don't know if they wanted to pickpocket us or what they were trying to do, but we were just walking in an area and it was a little touristy, but Josh and I are walking together, just a little bit of a space in between us. Obviously we're together, so not much of a space. And this person comes walking straight for us and tries to walk in between us, so kind of separate us a little bit. And it was really weird, so we thought maybe they were working with someone else, they were trying to do something, but Josh kind of called him out and then this altercation started and people started looking. And that was in Munich. So obviously different cities will have issues, but this is why Portugal is really nice because it's known for its safety. We also had a situation in the US that was similar like this, and it wasn't even in a big city, but just kind of a weird thing of a person coming to the door, asking a lot of questions. It felt like they maybe were casing the place. I don't know. So safety obviously is key for me, and when living in Portugal, I feel very safe. Now obviously you should still mind your items and your things, and you should know your surroundings, but it's a little less nerve-wracking, I guess I could say, walking around here by myself or just with my family.
Now in high school, I had a couple of friends that were foreign exchange students. One from Brazil, one from Germany, and these guys became like my best friends. I had 2 other American friends, and our group, we just always ran together. I love the cultural exchange that I had with the Brazilian and the German guy. And then fast forward to university, when I got to university, my university was really diverse in terms of the amount of international students it had. And since I was playing varsity soccer, we also had a lot of international players. And being in a locker room like that was so influential and impactful on me, especially at a young age. It was pretty wild getting to experience different cultures and languages then. And as years passed by in college, I started traveling abroad. I did a study abroad, and then I realized that I could live abroad and I could survive and I wouldn't get homesick. Because people always told me, because I was this small town kid, that I would get homesick and I would just be in my town forever. And when I realized that I didn't get homesick on a study abroad in Italy, that's when the game changed for me. You know, it was then when I really felt most alive, experiencing new languages, new cultures, trying authentic food from places. All of that was so massive. So for me, it's the adventure, and Portugal represents that. Portugal represents a new challenge with a language and a culture.
I don't think you can beat the cheap flights in Europe. So for example, I grew up on the East Coast, and just flying from the East Coast to the West Coast where we do have family, it's pretty long. I mean, it could be about a 5.5 hour flight, and it's not cheap. And there are budget airlines in the US, but not all of them go the routes that you want to go. Now in Europe, you have a lot of good budget airlines, and they actually are a budget. Now you do have to keep in mind that you have to pay for extra add-ons. So if you want to choose your seat or you want to take a bigger bag, then you will be paying for that. But the base rate for the flights are so good. So that means I'm living in Portugal, I can easily pop over to Germany, the UK, Italy for a very affordable price. So travel is something that is amazing while living in Europe because it's a bit more affordable, flying, train travel, those types of things. But then also you have options for cruises, and that's another funny thing. So Josh and I were just looking recently and we found this really cool cruise that goes around Iceland and Greenland. And so now, because of where we live in Portugal and in Europe, it's easy for us to fly to Iceland. There's actually a direct flight from Porto to Iceland, to Reykjavik, for only a little over 4 hours, and it's an affordable budget airline that gets us there, and then we could do this cruise. So having options like that is just, you can't beat it. Another really great thing about the travel around Europe is, since we're traveling with a 3-year-old, the infrastructure is really good. So we do have ride shares if we need, we do have trains that we can use, and flying. But when we lived in Asia, you would travel in some places and you'd be on like the back of a motorbike, or you'd be in a tuk-tuk, which isn't super ideal with a 3-year-old. So while travel is good in Asia as well, it looks a little different. So being in Europe gives us the opportunity to travel to lots of different countries, lots of iconic places, but then in an easier way with a 3-year-old.
Now I have multiple reasons why I don't want a car. For example, I don't like paying the car insurance, and that's obligatory, but that's an added expense. I mean, really, owning a car is expensive. I also don't like the responsibility that comes with driving. If you crash into someone, someone crashes into you, I just don't like it. I've had a couple of accidents, and boy were those big financial burdens. Especially when I was younger, I wasn't making very much money, and I think I carry that anxiety with me anytime that I drive because I know that there's that potential risk. Whether it be an accident that was my fault or because I took my Jeep out 4x4ing and got caught in a tricky situation and it caused damage to my vehicle that I had to fix. I've also experienced my car being broken into twice. In fact, once my car was parked at a friend's house outside of Atlanta and all 4 tires were stolen, and the thieves just left my car sitting on the ground. This actually was while I was traveling in Costa Rica, and it ended up causing one of those accidents that I was talking about, but that's a whole other story. So being car-free is a huge deciding factor on places that we live. I want something that's really walkable, and Europe has that. Portugal has that, especially in the bigger cities. It's easy to walk. You can be within a 10 to 15 minute radius from all the things that you really need on a daily basis, whether it be restaurants, cafes, grocery stores, sports entertainment, whatever it is. And then also having public transportation to offset those places that you can't walk, which Portugal has. I absolutely love it. Now contrast that with the US being such a car culture. It's super difficult in most cities in the US, or especially towns, to not have a car because it's so car centric. And that's not to say that Portuguese don't own cars, because they do in high percentages, but they don't actually have to as much as we Americans do in the US.
I really love the work-life balance in Portugal. So a lot of people in the US will say, I work so much. I get 2 weeks out of the year to take vacation, so I don't even have much time to travel or to do things that I want to do. I work long hours, so I can't even go to the sporting events that I'm paying for my kids to do. So it can be really difficult, that work-life balance. Well, this is where Portugal, I think, does a really great job because it's a slower pace of life. So I can go to a cafe and I can hang out with a friend in the middle of the day because I can afford that. I can afford the job that I have to send my daughter to a good school where she's learning Portuguese and she's socializing with kids her age. But then on the other hand, while she's doing that and she's enjoying herself, I'm working and then also taking time to maybe meet a friend for lunch or grab a coffee and just kind of slow down. So it's a really great work-life balance that you can have here. And a lot of Europe is known for that. Not every country, but a lot of Europe is known for that, and you kind of have that Mediterranean lifestyle. So I really do love the cafe culture here in Portugal and just that work-life balance, being able to afford going out and doing these things because of the cost of living here, and then also just giving my daughter a great life and then being there for my daughter. So while she's at school, I can do these things, and then when she's home, I'm spending time with her. So it's just a really great balance that we have here.
Let's get a bit romantic here. So a slower paced life. A slower paced life means being able to stop and smell the roses. And who doesn't want that? To be able to take a long lunch break or go out and have a coffee with friends midday. Now I know that not all Portuguese people are afforded that, but many are able to do it. And you see that. You see that on a regular basis, and you see regulars in your neighborhood that do have jobs, have 9-to-5 jobs, and they're able to go and take a 15-minute coffee break with some friends or even some coworkers. That type of culture doesn't really appear to me in the US. And I really love the fact that we can slow down here and just be able to experience life. In my opinion, life shouldn't be all about work. And those that do know me do know that I like to grind and I like to work hard, but I also like to relax and I like to be able to stop and smell the roses and have that be a part of the culture that I'm living in. Europeans also have a culture of having more time off of work, which I think is awesome. It's kind of depressing when you think about most Americans get a standard 2 weeks off of work. Europeans might get 4 to 6 weeks off of work. And there'll be like whole months in the summer where Europeans are able to travel. Maybe not all of them do, due to financial reasons, but there is that time off and that time to kind of relax and breathe and collect yourself. The other thing with work-life balance is that we can earn less money here and still live a great lifestyle. A lifestyle that's comparable to what we would live in the US on a much higher salary. Finances absolutely play into a work-life balance, especially when you're making a wage that is comparable to the US and then you're moving it over here, you can afford yourself the opportunities to relax and smell the roses. But the reality is, no country is perfect, and if you want to get a counter to why Portugal isn't perfect, you have to watch this video right here. Now let's get moving. Bye.